Spring is nearly here, and that means a lot more events and parties and weddings outside. And I thought it might be good to create a look that would be appropriate for any of those things, but especially wedding guest makeup. What is wedding guest makeup? Well, I don't really think there's particular rules, but in my mind, I'm thinking of something that is nice and soft. The skin is glowy, and yet there's longevity to the makeup here because events, weddings, whatever it is, are usually for several hours. And you also need sun protection because many of those events can be in the middle of the day or they start when the sun is still pretty high in the sky. So this entire look includes all of those parameters, and it includes products that are sold at Walmart. Huge thank you to Walmart for sponsoring this video. I've shopped at Walmart for years and years and years for all of my grocery, household needs, whatever, but especially when it comes to makeup. They are one of my top go-to places. Well, now they are expanding their beauty offerings online in particular. I don't know how much of this is going to actually end up in the store, but they have now a ton of Korean skincare brands available online. They're also adding some higher end brands as well, Bare Minerals, Color Science. So I am excited to share this entire makeup look, including skin prep, with you today. All of the products will be listed and linked below. And now without further ado, let's rewind the clock and get started on this wedding guest, garden party, outdoor event appropriate makeup. My hair is clipped out of the way because we need to start, most importantly, with good skin prep. And to do that, I'm going to start first with the Thayer's Hydrating Milky Toner. This I actually featured in my year-end favorites. I discovered this last year and I love it. This one has snow mushroom and it is hydrating. And with toners, you want to go in the order of kind of consistency. So this one is slightly milky, but still kind of a watery texture. And then I'm going to layer another toner on top of this one. And you're gonna see how my skin is transformed from being just dry and dehydrated to perfectly prepped for makeup. Now, the second toner I'm going to use is this one from Bubble. I've actually been using this for a while. This is the Cosmic Milk Hydrating Milky Toner. It helps kind of restore a healthy moisture barrier. And you can see this one now is more white. The other Thayer's one was kind of more like skim milk. This is moving up to about whole milk consistency. And again, it just absorbs so well and so quickly into the skin. And you want to just layer these like successively, one right after another. And the final step, I would, if I were not going to be doing an outdoor event type of makeup, I would probably then go in with moisturizer and then sunscreen. But I want to minimize the layers just a little bit, and we're going to go straight to sunscreen. And the good thing about this sunscreen, it is also hydrating, but really good protection. This is the Color Science Sunforgettable Total Protection SPF 50. I've gone through a couple of these. I have two different shades I'm going to mix. So I just picked up the one for tan skin tones, and this is a white. It starts off white, and then it changes, kind of adjusts according to your skin tone. However, there are levels of depth. So I have a bit of sunless tanner on, but I don't have quite enough for a full-on tan. So I'm going to mix light and tan, and you can even see in the white color here that they're just a little different. And do you see how it changes to skin tone? I love this sunscreen. It is 100% mineral, and it provides, I mean, look at that. It provides amazing coverage. So I'm going to start here, and because we did all of that good skin prep, this is not going to go on patchy. It is going to blend into the skin, and you're going to see a really nice, slightly glowy finish at the beginning. And as soon as I get this blended in, we are going to tackle the under eyes with one more prep step. Now that gave me quite a lot of color. Like, look at the difference. But it more closely matches my neck. And don't worry, we're going to tweak this just a little bit with some foundation. But I want to get this fully blended in. Now, I have really gotten back into under eye masks and patches, and this is a new one to me, Mighty Patch. I have actually used their little pimple patches. That's what they became really famous for. And I was excited to see now they're kind of branching out. I think they also have face masks as well, but I'm going to use these. These say for tired eyes. We got some tired eyes. And they come individually packaged in that box. It says the perfect pick-me-up for tired eyes. Serum infused hydrogel formulated with niacinamide, panthenol, allantoin, and then comfortable on skin, dermatologist tested. Let's try these out. So we have this nice tray. Now those were sealed quite well, and each one of the gels does have it has 2 plastic kind of covers on them. So you can peel those off and place them. I like the shape of this because so many times, you know, it has like a very pointy end. I personally just feel like it always gets into my tear duct if I put it that way, but if I flip it around, then I can't get as close to my eyes. But this is nice. This is a really, and even though it is kind of a gel texture, it's not feeling like it's gonna slide down my face. We'll keep an eye on it. Oh, those feel so nice. Wow. Really, really cooling. Now these say to leave on for 30 plus minutes or until this gel kind of turns clear. I tried one of these sets the other day and I left them on for 30 minutes and the gel was not clear. But when I took them off, my eyes were really hydrated and fresh. So I would say leave them on as long as you can or as time allows. Now, before we get started with makeup, I want to show you one other product that I actually used last night. And I'm just now noticing it does actually say nighttime. This is the Soai or Soay, I don't know how you pronounce that brand, but this is one of the K-beauty brands that's new to Walmart. And this is Vitamin Brightening Toner Pads. And these are so nice. These have vitamin A, B, C, and E, along with 3% niacinamide. And you can use vitamin C during the day, but whatever reason, I prefer to use it at nighttime. And this actually says nighttime. I love the packaging on this. I've not seen anything quite like this. So you've got a flip up lid and look, you've got little tweezers that have their own little holder up here. So you can use the tweezers to pull out one of these pads. They're really good size and very, very moist. So I just keep, you know, running it over my face and over my face. And it really is nice and soothing and brightening. And it's supposed to help kind of, you know, correct dull skin. So I've used that a couple times and so far so good. I really like that. Okay, my eye patches are sliding just a little bit, but we're gonna jump right into makeup now. And because our theme is wedding party or wedding guest, I'm thinking specifically outdoor event. And with that, it means not only do we need to make sure we've got our sun protection, but we are going to be doing makeup that looks good in bright sunlight. So it needs to not be too heavy, but also makeup that is going to be long lasting. So with that, we are going to start with a stain on the lips. This is the e.l.f. Sheer For It blush tint, but this can also be used on the lips. This is the shade Pink Positive. And this was new to me and I've been testing it out. It's really bright and fun. Don't get scared, but let's put this on. And again, it is sheer. And with stains, you can always build them up. I think I'm gonna leave this a little more sheer on the lips, but I wanna start off with this stain first. And then we're gonna go in with some hydration while we do the rest of our makeup. Okay, that stain is completely soaked into the lips. So now let's add a little bit of hydration. I'm gonna do the e.l.f. Glow Reviver Melting Lip Balm. This is the shade Strawberry Shortcake. It smells delicious like strawberry shortcake. And I'm just gonna put a little bit on now. This actually has pretty decent color. I'll show it to you. Swatch on the back of the hand. So no shimmer, but it does have a color, a tint to it, and it feels really nice. Good, thick, hydrating, but not sticky. We're gonna let the lips do their thing. We're gonna let the sunscreen finish soaking into the skin, which by the way, I know it looks a little dark and a little warm, but we're gonna fix that with our foundation. But we need to let our sunscreen soak in. So let's go back to the eyes. Now, because I have super oily eyelids, I did apply an eyeshadow primer. If you don't have super oily eyelids, you won't need one with this next product, which is the e.l.f. Liquid Velvet Eyeshadow. I picked up a new shade. This is Pink Chiffon. I also have Current Mood. I think we're gonna bring in a little bit of this, but this is gonna be the star of the show. Before we get to that though, I need a little powder shadow along the brow bone. You know how I roll here. This is the e.l.f. Bite Size Shadow, and this is the quad in Cream and Sugar. This is just a great basic. I have had this in my collection. I think I bought this twice. It's such a great one. We have this matte cream shade I'm going to put under the brow, and we will go back to this palette at the end, or well, towards the end of our eye look, for this wonderful shimmer shade and a little bit of this dark brown. But for now, we're gonna put that down and let's go to Pink Chiffon. Now, these are, I have found these pretty easy to work with. You do want to use a synthetic brush to blend them out. And I'm going to do this, just actually kind of take it through the crease and a little bit here on the outer corner. And I'm going to blend, I'm going to do one eye at a time. They do dry pretty quickly, but I have had no issues being able to blend them out. You see how pretty that is? I mean, if that is not springtime pink, I don't know what is. I love it, but don't worry. We're gonna tone it just a little bit. I'll show you how to do that. But isn't that amazing? And there's no shimmer in these shadows. And you'll note I did not bring it all the way to the lash line. That was on purpose. All right, let's do the other eye. Now, I have really enjoyed using this angled brush, but you can use a fluffier brush. You just want something that has enough denseness that it will actually kind of move and blend the product. You don't want anything that's too flimsy, so you can actually kind of blend everything out, blend the edges out, and there we go. Isn't that just so pretty? Such a good start. You can build this up, but I think we have enough to start right now. On the lid, I'm gonna go with this Hard Candy Pink Ink. This is the, what is this called? Shadow Marker. And this color is just so pretty. And these are another super long wearing that if you don't have oily lids, you can get away with just this. But I always just apply a little bit of eyeshadow primer as my insurance that everything stays in place. And again, as I mentioned, our goal with this look is light and ethereal, but long wearing. And you need to make sure you do a couple of layers. So this cream shadow stick and the cream through the crease, plus a little powder on top, and everything is gonna be there through the whole day into the evening. Now, on top of that, I'm going to add just a tiny bit of this first, right in the center, and then spread a little bit towards the inner corner. Not going up as high as I normally do. I'm not quite doing a halo eye, but we're just kind of changing things up a little bit. And then over the top of that, I am bringing in the Bare Minerals. This is the Pink Glow Gen Nude Highlighter Blush. This is one of the new things that I found on Walmart's website. They have several Bare Minerals products, and I think it's so cool that they are now bringing in some high-end products like this. So you can really kind of shop the whole spectrum. Do you see how by putting that on, it added just a hint of a pink glow. We're gonna use this on our cheeks, so we're kind of making this a monochromatic look by bringing it, incorporating it into our eyes. All right, for eyeliner, I'm gonna go with Current Mood. And I'm gonna actually put this on my makeup palette here, just this metal palette. And I'm gonna use an angled eyeshadow brush, or an eyeliner brush, I should say. And I'm going, it has a little bit of some thickness to it, but I'm just going to use that liquid velvet shadow that, again, this is Current Mood. And I'm going to use this just to softly add some definition. And you can go in with, you know, regular eyeliner or eyeshadow. Eyeshadow needs to have a base though, so that it lasts longer. And sometimes a liquid shadow like this can be just a little softer looking than an actual eyeliner. So I thought this color just blends so well with that pink, and it gives a hint of definition for the eyes, but it doesn't take over. I don't want anything to take over this beautiful kind of pinky shimmery look we got going on here. And that particular shade, because it has kind of some reddish plum colors, it really brings out green eyes. All right, I'm gonna go to this eyeshadow quad again. I'm gonna go in now with just a very thin eyeliner brush into that dark brown and just press this into the roots of my lashes. And this is gonna help our lash line just look a little thicker and fuller. And it will also just help minimize, you don't want, that's why I don't like to put pink all the way to the lash line, because we don't want our eyes to look sick. So there is kind of a neutralizing effect that this has on the eyes, and yet it's really soft and adds that definition without really taking over. Now, one final step on the eyes, I'm going to bring in my future bronzer, which is the L'Oreal 24 Hour Fresh Wear Bronzer. And I have the shade, what is this, 200 Fair. And I'm going to use just a fluffy brush. And right here, right at the outer edge, I'm just going to use a tiny bit of that. And you're gonna see it just warms the pink a little bit. We're not adding any dark definition. I mean, if you wanted dark definition, you could go in with the dark brown from this palette, but I want to keep this really light. So I'm just going to do a real light layer of this on the outer corner and blend it out. And then what this is also going to help us do is, again, keep that cohesion with our cheeks in the future. Our cheeks and our eyes are all going to blend seamlessly together. And it's also just adding a little extra layer for longevity over that eyeshadow. Okay, we're gonna leave that for the moment. And now it is time for me to take off my under eye patches. My under eyes feel super cool. And I mean, look how like depuffed, like it really transformed this area of the eyes. So I really, really am enjoying those. And then I just cleaned up under the eyes with a little almond oil, and that just adds that little bit of extra hydration. I do this every day. Now let's go to foundation, then we'll go concealer. So for foundation today, I'm trying this new NYX Make 'em Wonder foundation. Now I've used this twice. The first time I used it full on, and I felt like it looked maybe a little heavy for this look. So what I did yesterday, what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of the L'Oreal True Match foundation. This is just a great mixer when you want to maybe sheer out your foundation, but I feel like it needs a foundation like this that has long wear in order to wear all day. So the combination of these two is perfect. It's going to give us a little bit more evening out and coverage, but it's going to also last all day long. Now I have the NYX foundation in 10 Nude. This is what that shade looks like. You can tell it's a little too light for me at the moment. Without Sunless Tanner, this was a good color for me. So I'm gonna mix in 4W with the L'Oreal True Match, and hopefully we get a color that is pretty close to my Sunless Tanned shade right now. So this is gonna look a little light, and I might need to add just a touch more. I'm gonna let it kind of sit for a moment because I feel like there is a slight little darkening that happens. Let's add just a touch more. Okay, so as I add this, I'm going to kind of almost use the sunscreen that I've got on as almost like my bronzer spots on my face. So you'll see what I mean. I'm gonna use this to kind of highlight a little bit. And we're gonna bring all of these tones to the right spot. This is a part of the makeup that, you know, you can kind of freak out and think that you've totally goofed things up, but it's gonna all come together here. Now I'm just going to lightly buff this in, and I'm using, I mean, it's a pretty light amount, and I'm just going to use this to help hold our sunscreen in place. Now that sunscreen has quite a lot of coverage. You could just do that with some powder, but again, I feel like just adding a thin layer of a foundation that has some longevity built into it is really gonna help everything stay all day and through your whole event, even if you're out in the heat or in the bright sun. Thankfully, I don't think many of us are suffering with too much heat, although our weather has suddenly gotten quite warm here in Southern California. So we are really on the verge of garden parties, and I can't wait for our yard. All of our roses are just kind of starting to bud and bloom. All right, so blend it in. You can see that just helped tone that sunscreen down. Now just bring a little bit of this down on my neck. Because my dress, as you saw in the beginning, we have kind of open neck, so we need to make sure everything is blended well. Now over here, I have a nice little friend that appeared yesterday. Of course it did. So I was planning to film today. So, you know, we're gonna do our best to add a little extra coverage there. Okay, and then let's add our concealer, and that will kind of bring all of this look together. Now I am trying a new shade of the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Concealer, and this shade is 25 Light Neutral, and I like to go a little peachy on my under eye concealer because it helps correct and conceal all at once. Now for this, I'm going to place the concealer and I'm gonna let it sit for a moment and sink in. All right, that's had a little bit of time to sit. Now I'm just gonna go in and blend that concealer out. And then we're gonna do one more step. So this e.l.f. concealer, not only does it come in a lot of different skin tone shades, but it also comes in a couple of corrector shades. And this white one was kind of mystifying to me and a lot of people, but I've used this in a way that might surprise you. So I'm going to go in with the tiniest amount. I'm going to place it right on the inside part of that trough. Do you see that trough of the eye? Just putting a little bit there. And then I'm actually going to put a little tiny bit here. And then right next to that, I'm gonna add just a extra little dot. Little extra. I feel like this concealer can end up being a good medium coverage. I don't think you're getting full coverage, but I do think it covers quite well. So now I'm gonna take that brush, and as we go out, I'm going to lift the outer corner of the eye. And do you see? Just a nice little bit. If I were to leave that white all by itself, I think it would be too harsh. So that's why I mixed in a little bit of the actual concealer color with that. Isn't that amazing? I think it lifts really well. And now watch what happens when I press, and as I'm pressing this in, I'm pressing it this direction. I don't want to bring this over the trough. I actually am just focusing this kind of on this section next to my nose, and see how it draws your eye this direction, or rather than to the trough. I think it's a great brightening trick. And then I'll just add a tiny little bit of that, the center of the nose. Let's go a little tiny bit here. This is quite potent, so you don't need much. And then I'm just gonna take my foundation brush, make sure that's all kind of melted together. All right, now our goal is ethereal, glowy, but obviously I don't want to be shiny. And since I'm a combination kind of girl, I'm extra sensitive to that. So we are going to add some powder products, but first, one more step with a liquid. Let's go back to this blush tint. And I am going to, oh, this is always scary to me. I've got my brush here handy. Going to go 1, 2, 3. And then I am using this duo fiber brush to kind of tap that in. Now, if you don't have a duo fiber brush, you are definitely going to want to apply this maybe on a makeup palette. You could do it from the back of your hand. I don't want to stay in the back of my hand, so I'm going to put a little bit on the back of my makeup palette, and I'll show you that. So the stain, because it is watery, you just want to be careful that it doesn't pick up your coverage underneath, and it can. So, and you definitely, I feel like you want to do this before you add your powder, because I have tried it both ways and I think it works much better right over the top of your foundation. Do you see how beautiful and natural that it looks though? And you can build this up. So I would be interested, I know e.l.f. has a lot of different colors. I'd be interested to see how bright and dark. I think there's a color for everybody for sure. Go ahead and add one layer, the first layer of setting spray. I'm using the Hard Candy Look on Lock setting spray. Now, even though this look is not about chiseling the cheeks, I still need a little just definition to my cheeks. So I'm going to go back to our L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Bronzer, and I'm going to use a little bit of this just to give my cheeks some definition. Slim the cheeks, let's be honest. That's what's happening here. And I'm just placing that kind of high, but just on the back part of the cheeks. So not making this bronzer, I'm using this much more as a contour. And I'm doing this before I powder because I think that helps it blend in even more and look more natural. Little on the nose. All right, we're gonna go in with our first layer of kind of highlighter on the cheek. We're going back to the Bare Minerals Pink Glow Blush Lighter. And this definitely, I feel like, does give some color, but it's more glowy. So if you're thinking of it as just a highlighter, I think they do have 1 or 2 shades that are pretty light. But I think this is a beautiful, glowy powder blush. Think of it more that way. And oh my goodness, it's so pretty. But I'm doing this, and as I'm doing this, you'll see it's taking down some of the glow from the foundation. And so what that means is I'm not going to have to put as much powder on the outer part of my face. This is helping actually set the foundation, but I'm gonna end up with a controlled glow on those cheeks. That's what I want. We are now gonna go with powder, and I'm doing a combination of these two from Wet n Wild. So this is the pink loose setting powder, and then this is the translucent. So remember, you can always do that. You can always mix. The pink is really good and brightening, but the more tan I have, I feel like I need to mix a little bit of a translucent shade, and then it kind of almost gives me a bit of a look of a peach powder. I'm just gonna mix it in my hand, nothing fancy here. I'm working it into my powder puff, and I'm gonna start at the bottom of the face and work up. And I'm just, with what's left on the powder puff, lightly going over the cheeks. And then I am going to use this to set the under eyes. Again, just really lightly. Now, you know I love bronzer, and I'm loving this one from CoverGirl. This is the Skin Enhancer in the shade Toasted Butterscotch. Just watch how this just brings everything together. It brings a little more glow, but it brings the proper amount of kind of bronzer and rosiness. It doesn't cover up our beautiful blush, but it just helps everything mesh together. And I know this comes in, I think, 4 shades, but oh, I love this shade. I think it is so beautiful. You can take your eyeshadow brush and even kind of connect that bronzer with the outer corner of your eye. Isn't that just, oh, love it. Okay, inner corner of the eye highlight. Let's go back to this little palette here. And then we'll add a little bit of the matte shade just to blend that out. Now we've got to have one more glowy product on the cheeks. So we've layered, again, longevity, and it just adds more depth and actually makes it really look like that glow is coming from within. And I am using, this is a new shade to me. This is the L'Oreal Lumi Le Glace, and this particular shade is Glassy Pink Ballet. I have Glassy Pearl and I love that, but I thought, let's give this one a try. And oh my word, it's gorgeous, especially with a pink blush. All right, the way to use this that I'm finding these kind of cream blushes is to kind of paint the end of a dry blender or sponge, beauty sponge, and just press it into the cheek. And it just makes everything just look wet, but it doesn't lift your foundation or anything that's on there. I mean, isn't it just so pretty? Oh, love it. On to brows. You know, not my favorite part, but I do love the CoverGirl Nano Brow Pencil. This is in the shade Blonde. So let's start first with a fill-in, and I'm gonna try not to go too harsh. Keep the brows pretty soft and natural looking. All right, the brows are almost all filled in. Before I finish, I like to go in with brow gel, and I really do enjoy a tinted brow gel when I need to add extra longevity. And this is the Revlon Colorstay Brow Fiber Filler. I don't get the brush on this thing, but I do like the product. It has a tiny little brush here on the end, but then it has this section of bristles just on one side of the wand. I'm not sure, but I just, I wipe off the extra. And this also kind of helps for me to just tone my brows. Even though I have a lot of blonde highlights, I still have super dark roots. And sometimes I think the brows, if I just leave them solid blonde, they look a little strange. So I like to bring in just a little added depth with this. And this is a really nice, it gives good hold and good amount of color and texture through the brows. For mascara, I am going to use primer. This is the L'Oreal Voluminous, but I've been trying out the brand new L'Oreal Extensionist, Telescopic Extensionist Mascara. And I've actually been quite impressed. I've worn it, I think, 3 times before today. And I wasn't too sure about the wand because it's a little flexible. Normally I don't like that, but and the bristles are super, super tiny, but you're gonna see in a moment, this builds nicely and it does not smudge on me under the lower lashes. And I think paired with the primer, it does build up enough volume that is suitable for my liking. So I also feel like it does not get clumpy. What does it say? Extender, length, volume, and curl. And of course the picture is saying that you're gonna get 5 millimeters closer to your brows with this. So I'm not breaking out the ruler today, but we'll see. My lashes will definitely look a lot longer and a lot better once we get all of this applied. So starting off with the primer, and I just use the primer on the upper lashes. Now let's go in with the first coat. And what I kind of like to do is get it kind of close to the lashes, wiggle it, and then bring a little bit up through the ends of the lashes. And then I will do the other eye and then come back for a second coat. But do you see? Just one coat over that primer. It's already looking better. I'm just going back with a third coat here, just kind of on the ends. And you can see I'm just pushing up the lashes. I did not curl my lashes first. So with this mascara, as it's drying, you can kind of push the lashes up and it's supposed to hold the curl. And I actually think it does. And because the wand on this is skinnier, I don't feel like I get quite as much mascara on the outer part of my lid and along the lash line as I usually do with other mascaras. All right, we're gonna let that dry. And now let's go to lips. I'm just gonna dust a little powder kind of right up to the outer edge of the lip line there. All right, you already know I love the Maybelline lifter liners. This is just a new shade to me. This is Open Late. It is quite bright. So I'm gonna go ahead and line the lips, and then I'm gonna show you how to kind of mute it down, and we're gonna create our own perfect pink color on the lips. So we have that stain. You can see how much of the stain is left. And now by adding this long wearing lip liner, it's going to further just help lock in a lip color for many, many hours. So you can leave the lip liner, you know, and just lightly blend it in. I'm gonna fill in the lips a little more, just a little more. Next, I'm going to go back and add our Glow Reviver lip gloss again. So pretty bright, right? Let's tone it down. And so first, I'm going to go in with just a little bit of eyeshadow. I've shown this trick before. Not only does it help tone the color, add a little shimmer, but it does also help add longevity to your lip color and to keep it from bleeding or moving around. You just want to make sure you're using different fingers. Don't get your lip gloss in your eyeshadow. And then I'm going to go back to our pink glow. All right, dress is on, and now is when I like to do just a couple of finishing touches. So you might be able to see a slight difference between here and here. I'm just going in with a little bit of that dark brown shadow and just adding a little extra depth here, and I'm going to say smokiness, but not, you know, not grungy, dark, deep smokiness, just a little soft smokiness at the lash line, because I think it just helps actually make the look seem a little softer. And we're just kind of marrying and meshing those outer corner colors together. I'm going to add a little bit of the bronzer with a little bit of that dark brown. And it's just these final finishing touches, I think, that just kind of help pull the entire look together. All right, I moved the mirror out of the way. Now here is our finished look. I think it is soft and ethereal because we've got that nice glow on the cheeks, but it's not that oily glow. That's always what I am trying to avoid, and I think you'll agree. It just looks soft and healthy, and because of the way that we layered things, everything is gonna last really well. Now, if you want that final bit of insurance, you can go in with something like the L'Oreal Infallible 3-second setting mist. This is going to basically hairspray your face, but I try to avoid doing this unless I feel like I really, really have to. And I think what I have on here today, I tested it yesterday, yesterday, 8+ hours, and everything was still in place and looking really good. The lip color you are going to have to touch up, of course, if you're eating, but this will survive quite a lot. I hope that you enjoyed seeing this look come together. Maybe it gave you some new ideas, either of products or techniques to try out. Again, huge thank you to Walmart for sponsoring this video. Check the description box down below. I will have links and a list of everything that I used today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.